Hi, everybody. It's been a while. um, I've been at the Southport Flower Show, so I've kind of neglected the garden a little bit, and a lot of the garden had actually died back. So when I came back after about a month or so, I chopped everything back and fed all the containers. And it might be September, but I actually do have some blooms all over the garden. And so here happens to be one of my favorites right now. This Rebecca is doing so well. And then at the start of the video, you saw this guy. And I've told you guys so many times, I've never been able to grow sunflowers properly on the garden. But the reason is that I think I've been starting them way too early, so they get battered in the winds. And so these I started and direct sow these actually a little bit later on in the year. And I don't just have one. There's also another one over there too. Now that flower is just fading, but then I've got more blooms to come. And this one here, the main bloom is done. This one there, the main bloom is done. And then it's made 2 new blooms over here. And so we've got loads and loads of color here. This is one of my favorite salvias. This is a Russian sage, but it's so pretty. And I know you guys are going to ask, but yes, the fish are doing just fine. So the pond is looking decent. The fish have just been fed actually. But yeah, so the pond is doing well. And then at the start of the year, I showed you Leona. Leona was the bleeding heart, and she was absolutely massive. So she's finally, over the past couple of weeks, just died off. And so what I'll do is I'll chop that back, and then she will start to reappear. I would probably think around about February next year, but she'll come back twice as big. So I'm looking forward to that. And then over here, I've got my alliums, and they just keep going and going and going. And I love how they just gently sway in the wind. And then I've got some lobelia over here that I gave a chop back to, and that's beginning to come back. I've got this pineapple mint. Now this has got some whitefly on it. So what I'm probably going to do is just chop that back, because if we look here, there's plenty of new fresh growth down there. So what I'll probably do is I'm going to cut back some of this, and then I'm going to take cuttings of that and then keep that indoors and then plant that out, because I'm not convinced that this will stay alive over winter. So I'm going to make sure I get my lovely extras there. And then down here in this pot, I've got my white salvias, and just look at this. Absolutely gorgeous. I really, really love it. And then the geranium splish splash over here is doing really well as well. And I've got a verbena that's self-seeded in here. No one tells you that these things really, they just do what they want to do. And bear in mind, the original pot for that verbena is way over there. The fact that it's decided to, to start growing in this pot is something else. And then, of course, I've got the sunflower in there as well. So it's a really cool little pot. And then over here, I've got this heuchera. It's one of my absolute favorites, but it's getting deep. Well, every time I have one, it gets demolished by vine weevils. So I don't know why I've decided to plant up another one. But I really do like that pot. Dahlias. If you remember one of the videos, I planted up this dahlia, not giving a damn about it. And yes, it came back, it flowered like crazy. And so I had to chop it back a little bit, but it seems like more buds are forming. So I should get a couple more blooms from that before I eventually begin to cut this back. And with this dahlia, I think I most likely will dig that up and keep that inside, but I'm going to take cuttings from it and see if I can grow some of those. And then down here I've got echinacea, and one of these GMs here, both of my GMs, not one of my GMs came back this year. So none of them flowered. They've all just kind of stayed like this, which is pretty annoying. And so I've got no idea what's going to happen here. These nasturtiums have self-seeded, but the whole garden was absolutely infested with aphids. So by the time I came back from Southport, the garden, it was just awful, you guys. But the nasturtiums were in these pots here, and they've self-seeded down here. And once again, we've got aphids all over these. But whilst those aphids are distracted on the nasturtiums, it means that everything else is kind of coming back. And then I've got this container here. Now, this was an absolute beast. I ended up hacking this right back and just popping that in that pot. But it just goes so nicely with this salvia. And this salvia is called Mystic Spike. So it's a really pretty little salvia over there. And then, speaking of salvias, this salvia, oops, I've got this paper down here, I need to move that. Now, this salvia, I've had this since Chelsea, and you can see just how thick it is, but I've not really pruned it properly. And so next year, I mean, look, you can see all the way down, it is still making new shoots. And we've got more coming through. So I think what I'm going to end up doing this year is chopping this back, because it's so unruly. But we've got all of these blooms all over. And I really have been quite brutal cutting this and just keeping up with the pruning. But yeah, it's just sent up bloom after bloom after bloom. And you can see, actually, look, even more nasturtiums have self-seeded. One there. Oops. So yeah, one there, another one. So there's 3 that have self-seeded in this pot. So yeah, I need to sort that out. The peony, that did nothing this year. And then down here, I've got some grasses. I've got another echinacea. This one is an orange echinacea, which is about to send up another little flower bud there. I've got quite a lot of Achillea on the garden now. So Achillea does really well on this garden. So I've basically come to a conclusion that if things work well, then just get more of it. And so, yeah, I've got, this one is an orange echinacea. Sorry, an orange Achillea. Good evening. And so, yeah, we've got lots of new growth coming up underneath, which is really cool. I'm not sure if it's going to have time to flower again, but I will take plenty of cuttings from this just in case it doesn't come back. That was the foxglove. Hi, Jennifer. I know it. So what happens is let's see. Hi, Jennifer. So Jennifer just said it's really nice to see me again and posting again. What happens is I go away for a bit. I do like a flower show or something, and then so much time passes before I make a video that I end up, I know, getting a bit anxious again filming. It's so stupid the way that my mind works. So I just stop posting. And also it does take quite a long time to make some of the longer videos. So if you guys don't mind having some short form videos whilst I just get back into the process again of making longer videos, please, yeah, let me know in the comments if you don't mind watching short form videos. But yeah, I promise I'm going to try and get back to making full-time videos again. Because I still need to show you guys my garden at the Southport Flower Show, which I don't want to spoil any secrets. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you probably wouldn't know, but that garden did do really, really well at the show. And so I can't wait for you guys to see it in full. Thank you. Yes, I will take my time and yeah. Yes, on the short form videos. Okay. I will post more short form content on here. Promise. Okay, so we've got the foxglove. Now, this foxglove I planted, when did I plant this? I planted this earlier this year, actually. If you remember rightly in one of the videos. And this should have flowered this year, and it didn't. It didn't flower this year at all. And the GM didn't do anything at all either. Both of my GMs. That was my GM from last year. That did nothing. And this is this year's one. It didn't do anything either. Oh, no way. Right, you have to tell me, what did you grow in your garden that made it so successful? So someone's just said that this is their most successful year this year on their balcony. This is the hellebore. Now, the hellebore was flowering like absolutely crazy this year. So it's kind of just stopped now, and it's just doing its thing. And this here, this is actually muscari. So the muscari has started to come back. Has anyone else's muscari come back yet? So the muscari seems to be sending up loads of leaves, and I think this will probably be the first thing to flower next year. And it's done the same in this pot over there. And then I've got a couple of pots of echinacea again. I tend to quite like the flower cones, so I leave them, to be honest with you, just to have a bit of form and structure in the garden. Because come winter, the leaves again, I suspect, will die off, but it's nice just to have something a bit different on here. I really like that shape, so I'm going to leave these. For you guys, it might be an idea to leave them, because this could be a really valuable set of seeds for birds as well. But I don't get birds up here. Then down here, I've got my Brunnera. Now, my Brunnera really struggled underneath this Philitricum. And this is called a white cloud Philitricum, and it gets so big. So it gets to up here, and it completely smothered the Brunnera. So what I'm going to do is take this out and move it. But I have vine weevils in all of these containers around here. So I have some nematodes that arrived today. So my job tomorrow is to go through all of the containers and try and kill all of the vine weevils. There's just no point in putting anything in. And so when I say there are vine weevils everywhere, they're literally vine weevils all the way down the garden. So for me, it kind of now makes no sense to plant anything else because it will either just get killed, but it's also important to take note of what is working here now, because all of these things that are in there now are unaffected by the vine weevils. So again, when I say that I've got lots of Achillea on the garden in these parts and lots of Echinacea, is because I know that they work here. So I decided to get more or propagate more and put them in. I've got Nepeta down here, and as per usual, the Nepeta has gotten whitefly, but it is flowering again. So I'm going to enjoy these last bits of flower, but I'm also going to propagate these so that I've got more, because I know that this does well. I mean, this is a couple of years old. You can see all of that old growth. And I actually hacked this back. I gave this the Chelsea chop this year in that video earlier in the year. So I've got lots of bits and pieces in there. I've got this Nautia over here, which is just doing well. I need to deadhead that. So that's doing really well. And I've got this Dahlia. This is from the Southport Flower Show, and you're going to find out all about this particular plant and how to take care of dahlias with a dahlia expert. So when you see the next Southport Flower Show video come up, be prepared for that. Again, this is another foxglove. It has just got bigger and bigger and bigger and not done anything. Oh, I've got a cissus over here that looks like it is going to send me some flowers. Nice. I've white scabious over here. So I need to prune that a little bit. The herb tower didn't do so well, except for the lavender. So the lavender is doing well. And the curry plant, strawberry, and the oxalis. It's looking ropey now, but come a little bit later, it will open up. So those survived along with the sage. Everything else didn't do so well. But again, it wasn't watered for about a month. So, and then you guys, this I think is a cloud garden first. Hey! I'm so proud of myself. Look, I've got my own sweet corn. And just structurally, how cool is that? Now, it's not large sweet corn. This is actually baby sweet corn, so it's never going to get huge. Yes, let's grow. Come on. Exactly. But I'm really, really proud of myself. This one is almost ready. So you can tell when these fronds start to get a little bit darker, it should almost be ready. And this one's quite thick, quite juicy. But I'm not quite sure if it's pollinated itself properly. So I'm not really expecting much. None of these look ready yet. But I'm really happy with that. And then we've got these window boxes. Now, all of these salvias in the window boxes, I ended up cutting back completely because of the aphids. They just were not doing well, and they had already flowered, so they were pretty much spent. So I chopped it all right back down to the base, and they hadn't been doing anything. In fact, the leaves were that big. And then it's just now, because we've had some direct sun for the past 4 or 5 days, began to shoot up. So it is looking like I might get another set of blooms here. And these pelargoniums, these are trailing geraniums or trailing pelargoniums. This particular one is from last year, and I thought it had died because it turned brown and mushy. And it made a new set of growth on one side, and then just grew and grew and grew. and it's been flowering ever since. And so that was really interesting to me, that sometimes when it comes to plants, we can think that they're dead, but in actual fact, they will find new ways to grow. And just look at how big and luscious it is. So what I'm going to end up doing with this is, because I don't want to chance it again this winter, I'm going to dig this up, I'm going to chop it back, prune it, and with those bits that I've pruned, I'm going to clone and propagate so that I've got more of these plants to fill, because these clearly work in my space. The bacopa. So bacopa is a really nice trailing plant, and I really like to use these in window boxes. And it's begun to start flowering again. This is a half hardy annual. It can be a perennial. So what I might do with this is I'll dig this up and put this in a small pot and leave that down here. And if it survives, it survives. If it doesn't, well, it wasn't meant to. But I think what I'm going to do is empty out all of these baskets here and then turn these into edible containers for winter. So I have rows of spinach in here with some violas and pansies, or lettuce, things that I can just harvest, because with this glass, everything under here normally is kind of protected from frost, but these window boxes are the most vulnerable. So it doesn't make sense to have these plants that will die in the frost up here. So that's the beauty of container gardening. You can just empty stuff out and change things and make it work for you. So that's the goal. And it's the same with this osteospermum. It's just beginning to flower again. I had to do a bit of work on her. This, if you remember in one of my videos, this one and this one, these were actually just cuttings of this plant. And they've come back, and now look at it. Again, really awesome little trailing geraniums. Let's see. So again, with this sunflower, it has already flowered, which is cool, but it's producing some more buds. So I'm going to get multiple blooms on here, just like I do over there. This looks like another rogue verbena. So I've got a rogue verbena over here. Oh yeah, look at that. It's going to start to flower. Yay! Okay, so I'm about to get some verbenas. Nice. We've got the Russian sage down here. And this is something that I really love about gardening, and something that I would really advise you guys to think about for next year. But you know, when you look at the garden from here, it looks okay. But also think about, what does the garden look like from down here? Because when you put things like this, or when you have a view like this, you see all of the colors. It will kind of just blend in really nicely. And so the way to achieve that is by having pots at different heights. So you've got lots of different levels. And so from this perspective, if you're just sat here looking at the garden, it looks completely different. And then with all of the grasses and the alliums, you've got so much movement in the garden in this small space. I've got here a salvia called Mystic Spikes, and it's so gorgeous. And I've got even more of them coming up. So it's not yet finished. You can see where I've been making my cuts and pruning in order to get it to flower again. And then paired that with some Mexican daisies. Again, I had to chop back the Mexican daisies. Another name for this is fleabane. So this looks like it's just about ready to start flowering. So give it another couple of days and that will be in full bloom. And then down here, for some reason, my Malabar spinach that I tried to grow directly from seed, the Malabar fit spinach has finally, after 6 months, has finally decided to actually make an appearance. So he's just about to send up his first leaf. Now, Malabar spinach does not like cold at all. It doesn't like frost. I don't know why it's taking so long for it to flower. Sorry, for it to germinate. So I'm going to have to take that inside and let it grow inside. Now, Malabar spinach is a climbing spinach, so eventually it will climb all the way up the arch. But like I said, it is not frost tolerant at all. And then in this middle is actually not a bean at all. So I was growing my runner beans in here. This actually looks like, in fact, it's a sweet potato. And it's climbed all the way up. So yes, so this is sweet potato. And don't forget, guys, that you can actually eat the sweet potato leaves as well, in the same way that you can spinach. So yeah, I've got sweet potatoes there. I am composting. So I think you guys are going to have to tell me in the comments, but I think as I get over there, I think it's going to, the signal is going to get a little bit wonky, but I will give it a go. I'll walk down there and I'll see if I can show you the composter. If I can't, I'll do another video on that. But I have been using some of that composted material over there. Hi, Jay. Oh, Jay, nice to see you. But yes, when it comes to the composter, I have been using some of that leaf litter, mixed that into the compost over there, and then I've actually topped it up. So if we look at these pots over here, so this is my grapevine. This pot was Jennifer, you're from the US. I didn't realize. If you look at this pot, you'll see that I've got all of this leaf litter in here because I've just recently topped this up. So this is my winter mulch, is that compost material. I don't care if it's not broken down because it will break down over winter, and put that in there. And I've done the same with all of these. So you can see everything has been mulched with that compost. Same with over here. Now, this is something that I really wanted to show you guys. I mean, this looks so messy, but this right here was my clematis, and you can see just how well it was doing. It was all over this archway, completely all over, but because of the aphids, it died completely. The aphids really destroyed it, and part of me was going to dig up this clematis and throw it away, but actually, if we take a look down here, look at that, you guys. It's completely come back. So we've got new buds here. So there's one just behind, and then there's a third one coming up here. So how awesome is that? The jasmine. Oh, Sean from France. Salut, ça va? The jasmine this year was the best year flowering on this jasmine that I've ever had. It was incredible. The smell on this garden was fantastic. I'm going to look through my phone and see if I've got some video for that, and I'll include that in the next balcony video. But yes, it was absolutely fantastic. So if you don't have a jasmine on your balcony, you just need to get one. Phenomenal plant. This is a nothing burger of a pot. So I've got acanthus in here and I've got agapanthus in here. My mistake with the agapanthus is the fact that agapanthus like to be really packed in. And I think my mistake was putting it into a pot. Although it's sharing with other plants, there's still so much room in this pot that I think it's made more roots than anything, which is fine because next year hopefully it will flower. Another plant that I absolutely love on this garden, and that works really well, is I have these red hot pokers. You can see it's just finished flowering, but again, normally the red hot pokers are an evergreen grass. So this variety here is evergreen, so at least I will have lots of greenery on the garden as well. So someone asked about composting, or how often I change the compost. Well, certain people will tell you that you need to change your compost every year in your containers, but who on earth has got the time and the money to be doing all of that? No one. So I've got a video all about this, and what I say in that video is, let's say you've got a pot and everything is kind of dead. What you can then do is empty that out, mix it with some fresh compost, and then also add in something like worm castings, and that can rejuvenate that compost. So you don't need to throw it away at all. Just keep replenishing it and you'll be just fine. The only time that I say don't do that is if, for example, that plant is infested, or if you had a plant in that pot that was infested with something like aphids or vine weevils or something like that. That's when you discard that compost. But other than that, don't worry about it. Someone asked about irrigation systems. So last week I met up with a brand and told them that I wanted to trial one of their solar powered irrigation systems. And we had a really long conversation because they had a really great irrigation system, but you need to link it up to a tap. And I was telling them, that's really great, but actually a lot of us balcony gardeners, we do not have an outside tap. So how do we do it then? Because otherwise that means that we've got to leave our balcony doors open, and it's just not safe. And so they are going to send me a version of an irrigation system that can be linked up to a solar pump. And so I'm going to give that a go. And it should be arriving pretty soon. But I also told them I'm not going to promote it to you guys until I've tested it and I know that it works, because otherwise, what's the point? Like, I'm not here for a cash grab. The whole point of this channel is to help everybody. So I said, let me trial it for a little bit, see that it works. And if once it's something that I'm confident that will work for you guys, then I'll let you know all of the details. So yeah, that is to come. Then if you link down here, this is my pond over here. This is available on my website, and it's my little container pond. It comes with all of the plants, the basket, the compost. All you need to do actually is just plant it into the basket and then put some pots underneath it, add water. There you go. So the Hootie chameleons are just about to finish, but then we've got the marsh marigolds, which are just about to start sending up some new shoots. And the great thing about this pot is that everything in there is perennial except for the floating plants. So this will just come back and see. Look, you can even see here the horsetail is coming back up. Jay, I think maybe you're right. Maybe I filmed the installation of it, but not necessarily the results. What do you reckon? what am I going to do with the clematis pot? So this clematis pot, I'm pretty much just going to leave this. I'm going to top it up. So what I'm going to do is there is potential for it to decide to make some new buds on these, but I'm just going to chop it back, to be honest. All of these old branches, I'm just going to chop it back completely and let it do its thing all over again. Because if you see how much it's grown, that was all this year. So it's completely taken over everything, but it did that all this year from buds just like this. And to be honest, it should not really be flowering or doing what it's doing now anyway, but it has chosen to do so. Interestingly enough, along the arches, I had my passion fruit vine Tim, but it looks to me, I'm really sad about this, it looks to me that unfortunately, I think I've lost Tim, which I'm really, really sad about. He's in a pot over there, climbed up the trellis, but he got attacked by caterpillars. So this was the first year that I ever had caterpillars on the garden, which has been great because it's a real big milestone, but he got demolished. So yeah, I'm going to kind of hold off on him, just see what happens with him next year. If there really is no life sign, then I'll get a new one, a replacement. But the other thing that was on here were black-eyed Susans, and they climbed over both arches and were going crazy, but they dropped all of their leaves because they were being attacked by aphids and by the caterpillars. And I was going to dig up the plant, which was in this pot here. So I was going to dig up the plant and get rid. And then I got busy again and I didn't have time. But you guys, look at this. You can see it's dropped everything completely. Except, nope. 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 And just look, it's decided to come back completely. It's making all sorts of new shoots. And the reason why I was able to clock it is because this was the first year that I ever had sweet peas that had done well. So the sweet peas were in here. They were all dried. So I cleared out this pot completely. And then what do you know? Right behind it was the black-eyed Susan, which has crawled all the way from this pot over there, up the arches, all the way around, down, and onto here. Nature is something else, I tell you. The grapevine, this is how you know that the grapevine was under attack. You might not be able to see it clearly, but this is a chrysalis. This is how bold these caterpillars were. I mean, just look, the nerve. Didn't even try to hide on the back of the leaf. It just decided to make his little cocoon here. It's chrysalis. So yeah. So they munch their way through the grapevine. But I'm never worried with the grapevine because if you look all the way through the plant, there are buds all along the plant. So it looks ropey now. It will drop everything. It will drop all of its leaves, I reckon, in the next month or so as normal, and it will come back twice as strong next year. And then I've got so much fruit to harvest still. So I've got lots and lots of tomatoes. As we move down here, this is where the signal's probably going to go. So if the signal goes, let me know, you guys. But yeah, I've got tons and tons of tomatoes left to harvest. Some have been on for too long, so I need to get rid of that, to be honest. Then I've got even more down there. So I've got golden tomatoes. I've got Gardener's Delight tomatoes. I have some beefsteak tomatoes as well. And then just down here, again, you can see the aphid damage. But if you look underneath, you can see, ooh, let's move this. I actually have some Scotch bonnet peppers. Oh, wow, look at this. Come on, I don't even see this big one because it's green. And then there's a couple more of them over there. And then I also have some jalapenos. And then more rogue nasturtiums. And in here, this is actually, let me just clean this up. This is actually a different type of red hot poker. It's called Royal Standard, and it gets this tall. So it will flower up there, which is really interesting. It stopped flowering now, but I don't think I even got pictures of it. And then I've got this really tall Rebecca here as well. Something's been eating that. But yeah. So again, yeah, look, so these are the Mexican daisies. I really like these guys. They're so simple. You just give these a hard prune and they'll just come back. Just look at all of these flowering, and they can be ground cover. You can change the shape of them by trimming. They're such an easy go plant. Again, salvias. These ones were pruned properly, so that's why these ones are growing straight up, whereas the ones down there are not. So yeah, the oxalis, all the oxalis seems to be kind of closed at the moment, but it was one of those ones where I kind of moved a part of the oxalis, and it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where over here in the shade, they've just taken over this pot. I mean, I need to chop that back. So it's doing pretty well over here. This is last year's, oh no, this lupin flowered earlier this year. And this is I was supposed to put this back where the foxgloves were, but since the foxgloves haven't flowered, I've just left them there, and now it seems to be coming back. So, but yeah, these really are monster. So this is the struggle bus area. So in here, I've got loads of different plants that I just put into the tower. So I've made a little tower. And so I've got a whole heap of salvias and different things that I've just planted in there to see whether or not they would come back. But these oxalis have just taken over. And these are heavenly blue. They've been flowering like mad. So I'm going to cut this back a little bit. It's just finished flowering. But yeah, the salvia is just starting to flower as well. So yeah, there's still a lot going on this garden. This is Lucy, my giant alocasia. Just for context sake, she's huge, so she's going to come indoors over winter. She's enjoyed being out here for summer, But yeah, there's so much going on. Even the edible pond is still going well. Again, this is on my website. So there's sorrel, watercress, Javenica flamingo, and then the taro. Ooh, lots of Nepeta. So yeah, there's a lot going on. It just needs a good old tidy. But I'm really happy with it. So I hope this has been like a cool little balcony tour. I'm really glad that some of you have been able to join actually and been able to go through it with you guys. But yes, more short form content if I can't make the longer form content. I also have a client who's got a roof terrace that I'm designing. So if you would like to know or see how I go about doing that, let me know, because she has given me permission to film if I want to. One of the tasks is going to be making her garden ready for spring, and she's got raised beds in there, and so the goal would be to make sure that her raised beds are prepped and ready for spring. So yeah, if that's something that you'd be interested in, let me know and I'll be sure to film that. Thank you guys. And this is the part where I lose a bit of sun. So when I first started this channel, none of these buildings, so that one was just being started, that one and that one, they were not here. So in the space of 5 years, these towers have gone up completely. And now what happens is around about 5 o'clock, that sun will go behind that building, and then I lose a couple of hours of sunlight. So you can see the difference here. You can see where the sun ends and where the shade begins, and then it will become quite cold out here. Is there anything that I would like to grow this year or next year? So what I have decided, the conclusion that I've come to this year is I was away from this garden for a good 3 or 4 weeks because of Southport. And before then, the garden was doing really, really well. Looking at the garden now, I'm still really happy with it. And it's really taught me that actually I need to have the right plant in the right place. And so when I look at this garden, I see all the things that are doing really well here now. What I'm going to do is make a mental note or come and propagate everything that's doing well now, make as many duplicates as I can over winter. And then I'm going to come back out and then plant them again. So any little gaps that I see, I'm going to just use the same plants that have worked well here, because I am tired. I am tired of going out and trying to make this garden work, and nature is telling me certain plants don't work here. That's absolutely fine. I'm learning. I will always have a little corner of the garden where I experiment and try something new on, but I think actually my goal for next year is to stop fighting nature. Just put plants out that actually work in the space so that I can enjoy it and not feel like the garden is a chore. So yeah, that's the goal for this year. What about yourselves? Let me know if there's anything that you guys want to grow. I'm going to include a few more edibles into the planting next year. Yeah, and so exactly as Sean says, don't fix what isn't broken. And I think that is literally the message of this garden, is don't fix what is not broken. The way that I think about it is, when I'm looking at the garden all the way through, it's really great. It is awesome. And I will find footage. I did film some footage of the garden when it was looking its best in summer. So I'll put that in the next balcony video so that you can see it. But what I would say is, when I look around the city, you see all of these balconies. And then compare it to my garden. Essentially, I'm gardening somewhere that's not natural, and so I think it's a case of essentially figuring out what works, and then what kind of works naturally up here, then I need to do more of that. And so I think next year I'm going to include more alpines. I know I've got some alpines in this pot here and in some of these pots. So I've got some anemone. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Yeah, so in some of these pots down there, I've got some alpines which will come back next year. I got violas in there. They lasted all year. They're now coming back. And I'm going to incorporate some more alpines into the planting, but I'm also going to include some more edibles into the planting as well. But the goal is to actually just have to do less. That's all I want to do, is do less and enjoy the garden more. And so, yeah, that's my message for you guys in your planning for your 2026 gardens, is how can you have more in your garden and do less? And yeah, I think it is about softening the landscape. So if you're new here, you might not know, but last year I had the opportunity to go to China, Hong Kong, Singapore, Barcelona, and Milan. And I had won a research grant, and that research grant was called the Churchill Fellowship. And it allowed me to go and study urban greening in cities across the world, well, across Europe and Asia. And so one of the things that I learned is how to make or the policies around making cities greener, especially when you look at somewhere like Singapore or China. They've got really great green policies, and things like balconies are just standard. So I remember going to Singapore, being in Singapore, and people asked me, what did I do? And I said, oh, I'm a balcony gardener. And people just looked at me. They're like, and? Because basically everyone gardens on their balcony anyway. It's so natural over there. And so I kind of wanted to get to that point here where my job is redundant, where I'm not needed. And to cut the long story short, you guys are going to see all of this because I've vlogged it all. So come winter, once this garden's died down, I'm going to start resuming that series. So I think I got up to Barcelona. If this is interesting to you, I got up to Barcelona in the Churchill Fellowship playlist, which is on my YouTube channel now, so you can watch that through. But I show you all of these different communities, all of these different initiatives by different governments in these different cities, showcasing how they put greenery into the city. And then there are some really great ideas in this series to help us in our gardens. And so, yeah, and if you haven't seen that series, or if you didn't know about it, the algorithm hasn't been promoting that series at all. I think because the algorithm doesn't understand. The algorithm's kind of trapped me a little bit. It wants me to just do balcony gardening content or flower show content. So it doesn't show that stuff. So yeah, if that's something that you're interested in, I have multiple videos in Milan and Barcelona. The next upcoming video will then be my flight over to Singapore, actually. And so yeah, we start Singapore, I think, in October. So you'll get to see Singapore from my point of view in October. Yeah. For less work, use more perennials. Exactly that. And so I I think, obviously, this sunflower behind me is an exception, but if I just turn this around, when you have a look at these, everything that you see there, these are all perennials. And obviously, I've got little gaps here where I got the winter bedding in, but predominantly what I've made sure to do in all of these containers is have at least 2 or 3 perennials. And then what I have done is left a space. So yeah, 3 perennials, and then these are self-seeded, these nasturtiums. But the goal was always to have just little bits of space where I could plant either bulbs or annuals in between if I wanted some instant impact color. But again, here, this is evergreen. You can see where I've chopped it back to keep it small or smaller, but everything in there is perennial. So I literally don't have to do anything apart from cut it back next year. Again, perennial, perennial, annual. And I followed that pattern all the way through the garden. Again, salvia, perennial, perennial. Red hot poker, this is perennial and evergreen. And then a space for an annual. So although it might look a little bit of a mess now at the moment, everything is now prepped and ready for next year. So next year, I literally do not have to do anything. But I think that we all need a bit of time. We all need time, and we need time to enjoy the space. So that is the goal. There you go. This is my new sunset. Thank you guys for being on here with me today. You kind of helped me a little bit in terms of being a bit anxious, making videos again. So I really appreciate that. It's kind of driven me to do a bit more content. So thank you. Yes, Google wants easy pigeonhole. Yeah, when it comes to content creating, these algorithms can really force you into just doing one thing. And I think that's probably been one of my biggest learnings since I've started to garden. Obviously, you guys know that I'm now a TV presenter, so I present for Alan Titchmarsh. This year I presented on the daytime show for the Chelsea Flower Show. So I was an official presenter for the Chelsea Flower Show. I've gone on to do so many things, gone on to learn so many new things. I think gardening has been the art of gardening is one thing, but it's now led me onto this new passion for urban greening. And for me, the two are linked, but the algorithm doesn't see that. The algorithm just sees flower shows are popular on my channel, so I need to do that. And if I do anything other than flower shows or anything other than balcony content, it won't show it. It won't show that work. And a flower show video, just for context, it takes me around about 4 to 5 hours to film, and then it takes around about 8 hours to edit and do, because essentially the way I film it and I research it and do my flower shows, it's almost like a TV show in itself. But of course, on a TV show, you've got a whole team, a whole production team to do all of this, do all the research and everything like that. With this, it's just little old me. So it takes quite a bit of time. So yeah, I really enjoy doing the flower show videos, but they are quite draining, and it does take a lot out of me to do them. But having said that, what I really love about doing the flower show videos, for example, is I can go into so much more detail than you would ever see on Gardener's World, for example. And it was really interesting this year being a presenter for the Chelsea Flower Show. I got to see things from the other side. And so I got to see how we only have a 2-minute slot for a segment, for example, but that 2-minute segment takes roughly 3 hours to make, because you got to make your way through the crowds. We have to film things from multiple different angles. So sometimes you're repeating the same thing, but you've got to have it filmed from 5 different directions, because everyone wants everything to be the best. And so sometimes to make it all work, you need to kind of narrow down what it is that you're saying. Whereas on my YouTube channel, when I interview the designers, we get to hear everything in full blast. And that's why I absolutely love doing the flower show series. It just takes a lot out of me. But yeah, so I'm going to keep doing the flower show series for that reason, because I really do thoroughly enjoy it. And I do enjoy doing the balcony content, because that's where I started. But I don't like being pigeonholed into doing one or two things. So I just do it. I do what I'm going to do more of what I enjoy doing, as well as just the two things, the flower shows and the balcony content. You enjoyed the interviews with the young people. Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's really important, because I'm not sure if you guys agree, but hands hurting, bear with. Oh, now I'm upside down. I'll come back round. Yeah, I think when it comes to the flower show series, when I'm interviewing them, I know from my own experience, from doing Chelsea, from doing Tatton, from doing all those flower shows as a garden designer. Back, sorry. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, guys. But yeah, when you design a garden, so many things inspire you, and sometimes that doesn't often get conveyed in the final result. And so sometimes people get to the show, they look at a garden and just see it visually and think, oh, that's really nice, I like that, and move on. Or quite often they'll say they don't like the garden and then they'll move on. But sometimes you might have been inspired by something, or the garden might represent something really important. Like if we look at the Wentworth video, the last flower show video, and we looked at that garden that was in the dunes, and it was in Fire Island. And when you start to hear the history and learn the history of why that outside garden was important on the dunes to a particular community, it just brought the garden to a whole new life. And the problem is, you can't always go into that level of detail on TV, because it causes a lot of controversy. Whereas I can have full freedom on my channel to just jibber jabber and get to the point. So yeah, that flower show series will stay, and I think next year it's going to increase. I've already had some designers in contact who would like me to come and interview them on their gardens next year. So yeah. But yeah, I think you'll also see a lot more of my day-to-day job on here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make some of the short form videos, like you guys said I will do. You guys said you'll watch those. I'll showcase some of my day-to-day job, whether it's me going to universities or me going to schools, so you get to see what I do on the day-to-day as well. So we'll have the long form videos and the short form as well. Right, before I go, if you've got any more questions, let me know below, and I'll try and answer them quickly. And if not, I will see you at the end of the week with a full in-depth look at my show garden at the Southport Flower Show. Oof, my arm is hurting me. No, doesn't look like you guys have got any more questions. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and for being so patient as well for me to actually post. But also thank you for being so lovely. Jay, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you all. You've inspired me to get content creating again. I love you guys. Thank you so much. And I will see you all very, very soon. Bye.